Hello everybody and welcome to another exciting, hair-raising, fun-filled episode of Radiorama, where I show you how to work on primarily radios, some television, stereo systems, other stuff that glows on vacuum tubes. And today we have an early 50s Hallicrafters Continental. I believe the model is 5R33 and they came in a whole bunch of different colors. This one appears to be in this sort of, I'm not sure how to describe it. It's almost salmon. It could just be dirty. When it cleans up, it'll reveal its true colors. Interestingly enough, these did not come with an antenna. You had to install your own because the idea was that you could listen to shortwave, and I guess you were almost expected to have a long antenna. I see remnants of a dial string, which makes me think that the dial string is snapped on this. In fact, I don't see an indicator up here at all. I'm going to give it a test. I saw a little flash of the pilot light coming up and down. Well, I can't tune it, so it's hard to tell. It's a healthy sound. I think it's probably currently possibly working, but we're not going to really know what the condition of this is as far as its electrical condition until we take the chassis out, which looks like that won't be too difficult. We'll probably have a couple screws in the bottom. 3, I'll take the knobs out. I'm just hoping that tuning indicator's in there, otherwise I'm going to have to either make one or find one that'll fit. Alright, well, I've pulled the chassis and it looks like it's pretty clean. A little bit of cadmium corrosion. I'll wipe that off. I'm curious because this says it's an Audax speaker, and I've only seen that brand in French radios. It looks like it's custom fitted to this cabinet though, so I don't think it's a replacement. When I look underneath here, someone's done the bare minimum to get this up and running again. They've replaced the 2 electrolytics. They left the old one in there, that big fat can there. That's the original. Not much going on in these guys. Not a whole heck of a lot to replace. We only have, let's see, 3, 4, 5, 6 paper caps and 2 electrolytics that have already been replaced. And I don't like the way that I might cinch up these leads a little bit. I guess that one's okay. I guess that one's okay too. This is the grounding cap in these guys. You got to be careful because they have a little loop that goes around them. So don't leave that loop out of that circuit. We'll discuss that in a little bit. But now that we know that at least the electrolytics are replaced, we can give it some kind of test. Because I can manually turn this. Here's the tuning string. That's not original tuning string. Someone replaced that. The indicator was long gone, but I was digging through my supplies and I found this. Come on now, I'm turning it the wrong way. There we go. You would never know that that was not the original. So let's go ahead and plug it up and see what kind of performance we get out of it. I can't tell which band it's on, but we'll find out soon enough. That thing's hard to turn. Jeez. I'll put that knob on there.
Wall Street, but selling restrictions on Rivian stock. They only grew by.
And that's one of those too. If I see it on TV,
Playing pretty good. So that's a promising sign when what you're starting to work on conveniently already works and you don't have to do any real troubleshooting. But then again, I'm getting too cocky. Sometimes when I say that, next thing I turn it on, sometime I just silver mica disease or revere its ugly head. But what I'm going to do before I get too carried away, I want to clean this cabinet. I don't like that orange, well not orange, I don't like that green cadmium corrosion, so I want to wipe it off with a wet cloth. Do not use anything that gets it airborne. the stuff is possibly carcinogenic, and I'm not taking any chances. So I'm going to wipe that off. Again, wet. Keep it from getting airborne. Alright, so the chassis is cleaned up. There's really no corrosion on it. Next thing I'm going to do, because I know it's so unfun, is I'm going to restring this. Sometimes this can take longer than restoring the entire radio. There's like a black magic when it comes to it. Most American sets aren't that bad. This one's a little more complicated. Sometimes if you get lucky, if you look up online for the schematic, it'll come with a stringing diagram. That's the first thing I'm going to do, and if not, I'm just going to have to wing it. Most of the time I don't, but we'll see. Well, lightning struck twice. I was able to find a string diagram. Kind of glad I have this. This is not a super obvious path here, but this makes it all the more clear, especially this weird area here. Looks like it got this pulley, then it gets put in front of that guy, and then it goes around the drum, and it names the steps. Where do you start? Let's see. I'm guessing you probably start with this spring. The spring comes out. Where's number 3? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, that makes sense. So I'll follow this. It's gonna make my life a lot easier. Alright, so even though I had a string diagram, it was still a little difficult to get this to work right. Some of the bearings were pretty stiff, especially on the tuning condenser. But now that everything's all freed up and everything, it seems to be working pretty well. And again, the dial indicator looks pretty believable. I'm not sure if it was that color, but chances are no one's going to know or care. Now, since we're in a good stopping place as far as electronics for the evening, even though I didn't do anything electrical, I want to turn my attention to the case. You know, everyone smoked back then, so sometimes you can get a little tinge to the finish. So I'm going to wax and clean this with Carnauba paste wax, which I buy in tin form. McGuire's. I use the hard paste wax. Follow up with liquid wax and get a real glossy shine on it. So I'm just going to sit here and polish away. Alright, well this is after about an hour of polishing away. Color's kind of growing on me. I'm really glad the script survived here. A lot of times that's worn off or flaking off. But I'm pretty satisfied with that. I think I'm going to call it quits for the evening. We're resuming this tomorrow. Right, welcome to day number 2 of working on the Hallicrafters. And no, this is not a radio. It's the internet device that used to be on my, well, I just took it off my roof. I'm getting a new roof tomorrow. And this thing used to be what we got our internet from. I can't remember. It uses radio frequency basically, but it's an extremely high frequency. And I'm just very curious what all this stuff is. Wish there was a way I could use it for something, but oh well. Can't stay here. My wife would probably be displeased if I had looks like a giant droid sitting in the yard. So this is the aforementioned polished up case. And now we're going to work on the chassis, which, as I showed you last night, it's been restringed and cleaned. So I think one of the first things I'm going to do, just because it bothers me so much, because I'm going to replace, well, remove that. That shouldn't be in there. Huh. What have we done here? There's this loose hanging lead here. Kind of wonder if it what used to be the old ground for the original, or for this guy. I bet you anything it was. Well, that gotta clip that out of there. That's just fire hazard waiting to happen. What do we have here? We have 1, 2, and likely 3 0.05 rated microfarad capacitors, a 0.01 This guy, I don't know the value, I don't care, because it's going to get replaced with a, well, here's the deal. I know it, I've worked on these before, it won't work without that loop that's wrapped around this capacitor. And I don't think that thing is in circuit with the capacitor. It's been a little while since I worked on one of these. It might be, but either way, I find it's easier instead of having to unwrap that. Just, I'll leave the old cap in, just detach its leads, and we're going to attach our oh so famous, frequently mentioned safety capacitor. And what do we got here? Is this another? Yeah, it is. So what this person previously did is they taped off all the old leads coming from this guy here. That must mean there's maybe a third one in there somewhere. Yep, there it is. Never seen this before. Because it's so easy just to cut these out of there, just instead of leaving them in there like that. So I'll shut up and start doing the recapping. And usually I film doing that, and I'm trying to debate whether I want to do it again. I'm trying to get better at using my little holder here. Even though it's really cheap, I could get a better one. Yeah, why not? Good practice. Sorry that the stupid camera holder bounces around, but I'm going to go ahead and start doing the recapping job. I was able to yank all those wires that were in there out. And the first one we have here is a 0.05 rated paper cap. It's got the value written right on there, 0.05. And the maximum working voltage is 400 volts. That thing probably will never ever see anything remotely close to that kind of voltage. But nevertheless, I buy 630 volt rated caps for everything. And looks like the sheathing that was on it is still in good shape, so I'll just go ahead and reuse it. You know, if it starts crumbling in your hand or it's too brittle, maybe reconsider. But this is like some sort of cloth coating with some sort of, or it's cloth with some sort of impregnated coating on it. It seems to hold up pretty well. So I just want to find a place to hook it in there. Then use your needle nose pliers, cinch it up a little bit. There's some people have a more elaborate method using something called a pigtailer. Makes nice, neat little connections. And I also know people who could take it to a whole other extreme. Well, they will desolder absolutely everything attached to the lug and resolder it all back together again. To me, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, if you want to do it that way, I'm not gonna stop you. But personally, I think it's kind of a waste of time. Now we'll bring that over. Again, you want to kind of keep your leads as short as possible. If you make them all loose and everything, you could have some sort of AC or radio interference. Then it's just not good to have things that are live bouncing around other live exposed components. Every once in a while I'll see these comments from people who work in modern electronics, and they're just horrified by what they see, because you've got these flying splices all over the place. The trick is that your leads on your caps are so stiff that they're pretty much self-supporting. And what I do here is I'll clip one side of one lead of one of the old caps at one at a time, and then I'll slip in one side of the new capacitor. If you do this enough, eventually you'll be able to just kind of eyeball your leads and clip them pretty close to what you actually need. Again, the idea is you want to try to keep your lead dress as short as possible. Let's cut this piece out of there. Make sure that you're wearing goggles if you don't wear glasses like I do, because sometimes when you snip these ends off, they come and hit you in the eye. And trust me, before I repaired radios, I raced lawnmowers. Yes, I raced riding lawnmowers It's a very dangerous hobby, but anyway, I learned how to weld and everything, and I was working one day on one of my mowers. I think I was working on the frame, and I was using a grinder wheel to grind off the excess, and even though I had goggles on, a piece of metal got in my eye, and I had to go to the emergency room, and subsequently looked like a pirate for a few days. Okay, so we've got those two replaced. Let's see what this guy is. This is a .01 rated capacitor. The cord's kind of in the way. Oh yeah, I want to remove that guy as well. So, what do I have here that can wrench that free? Come on. Alright, you just... Look how swollen that is. No wonder it was bad. Okay, back to business at hand. We can now get that cord out of the way a little bit. Get our .01 rated capacitor, capacitator, and put it here. Now let's see, maybe I can move this like so. Just for a little while. I don't think I need that huge amount of lead since this is a smaller capacitor versus the original one. You don't want to lay it right across the bottom of the tube. This is, I think, the output tube, so it gets pretty toasty. Leave just a little bit of air. Great, I just squeezed out without getting around the wire. Lovely. All right. And now I'll solder that piece in. By the way, what do you guys think about this kind of change in format? I've been trying to kind of do these live. Now it puts a little more difficulty on me because if I mess up, I have to stop the cameras and start all over again, but I feel like I'm getting maybe just a little bit better, if not completely fouling things up. So now we'll reach this second lead here. Make sure we're not going around anything else except for what we want, which is this. Squeeze that in place. You see, like, it's not near as dangly as the one that was in it. It's mo better. And every time you get through soldering something, make sure and check your leads. Make sure your solder is good and solidified and stable and secure. Now that's 3 so far. The other 2, I think I'll replace this last one with the camera, and then we will go on to other things, because this, I don't think I have the right value here tonight. I can't tell if that's a .01 or a .05 rated cap. I need to look up the code, but that needs to be a .01, and I'm out of my safety caps. I meant to go to the museum and get more. I totally forgot. But no matter. It's like 2 minutes worth of work. So, we will again come in here with my pliers and snip one end off. Where does that go? That goes... Where does that go? Does that go to ground? Oh, no way. Yeah, it does. What pin number is that? 1, 2, 3, 4. Coming off of 12SA7? No, not 12SA7. Can't tell what that is. It's one of the IF-RF tubes. It's probably low voltage right there. I'll replace it because I know on these guys this one right here should be the 2 ground capacitor. That's what I recall, because it's got this skinny little wire coming off of there, then going. Yep, that's it. Okay, so that's not the grounding cap. That's just probably some sort of bias cap. Nothing to worry about. Okay, so let's come in here. Solder lead number 1 on. I'm just now remembering, I think I've worked on this model recently. and I need to go back and actually maybe watch that episode, because I had a bear of a time getting the set to still function and pass our safety requirements, which is maximum that we want on the chassis. 0.6 of a volt on the 2-volt AC scale. We want very little current on the chassis, but I remember this set has multiple 2 chassis grounds. It doesn't mean like direct 2 chassis. Now it's not coming directly off of one side of the AC, but it does have a little bit of current on it. And I remember from the last time, I think it was, let's see, it's the 2 IF and RF tubes. I think there's one, where are they? This is painful to film. Maybe this one is a little bit different. Nope, there's one there. Definitely one there going to ground. And there's one here as well on that tube. No matter. I'll replace the rest of these caps and then we will do some testing. Okay, we are recapped minus the safety cap, but I did install a 0.01 rated cap in its place that I will replace later. It's time to do our safety test. And just like Space Odyssey 2001, this unit is bound to fail. But I want to get a baseline before I do anything else, so I'm going to go ahead and run it through my machine. Ow, Jesus Christ. I just got zapped. I think what I did is my knuckle touched that and that box at the same time. It wasn't that bad. It was just kind of a little bit of a tingle, but that doesn't bode well. That probably means this is not going to pass whatsoever. That's clearly the neutral side, and that's reading high for neutral. The other side is going to fail dramatically. I know it. Yep. 1.78 volts. That is roughly way beyond our threshold. So now the next thing, the trick is going to be attaching a good antenna. Start with good reception, start clipping ground until I find the one that's going to take the radio out, and at that point I'll have to put in a 0.01 rated cap in between the ground that is causing the issue and its initial connection. I know it won't work with both of the bias grounds removed from these tube sockets. Okay, it's time to start clipping. I don't recommend that anyone does this. Do this. Alright, let's try our safety test now. That didn't do anything. Alright, let's clip the other ground. Alright, let's try that. Huh. That didn't do it either. There's clearly some other ground in here. Let me get my flashlight out. Alright, it's this connection right here. This will probably be the one that breaks the camel's back. Well, it's still working. There we go.
Behind him, grabs it, takes on 3 defenders, puts it off the glass. It nearly went down as he was fouled, circled the rim, and popped out. Tyrese Maxey, again, as you mentioned, Doc Rivers wanted him to speed up that attack. You don't have to ask Tyrese Maxey.
All right, we went from 1.7 to 0.4. 0.4 of a volt. That's what I want. Now, granted, I can tell why all those little bias grounds were there. Because when you have the cord turned around in one direction, you get a little bit of a hum.
3 is the
torn the cord around. It's clean.
Joel Embiid getting set to check back into the lineup. George Niang will take a seat for Philadelphia. Dwayne Dedman coming in for Bam out of
I'm going to clean that volume control. Okay, this one's upside down. Work it into the pot there.
500 $500 a month when they huge help when prices are going up so fast.
Celtics coach Ime Udoka
I'm going to clean the band switch too. Oh. Well, I'm going to clean that a little bit more. I can't do it while holding the camera, but it's just a little dirty. All right, the first thing I wanted to do was to see where the top of the volume pot was, and I saw this shielded cable going up. The volume control is buried in there, and it's got a pretty durable cardboard, paperboard cover up top, and every time I've tried to butcher to get into the volume pot, it's just a mess. So I know that it comes out here, and right now I've got a Bluetooth mechanism running through it. Now, the only thing I need, well, not the only thing, you can't just run a line in like I'm doing here, because you want to make sure that if anyone were to ever touch the plug going in there and there was some sort of fault with the radio, or perhaps there was some connection to even the floating ground, that the user would not even get a tingle out of it, we're going to remove the entire possibility of getting any sort of jolt or shock or tingle by installing an isolation transformer between the audio input line, which is this cable, and the incoming volume pot. Now, the other thing I need to do is find a way to disconnect the radio signal so that when the user wants to just listen to music, they can flip a little switch and that'll turn it off and on, turn the radio signal off and on rather. And then when they want to listen to the radio, they can just flip that switch and they get pure, unadulterated AM radio, even though, in my opinion, there's not much to listen to around on AM these days. All right, so here is the audio input system installed. I know I usually go in more detail on these, but I've done a lot of really detailed reviews of how to do this in my other videos, so this one will be a little more abridged. Anyway, we have our right and left channels running through a pair of 100 ohm resistors that tie together, and then we have our negative that goes to the other side of the secondary side of the transformer. The primary side has a resistor and a cap. The resistor is half the value of the volume pot, which is about 270K, and that goes to one side of the pot, which in this case is this red wire. This is the income, well, this is the radio signal going to the top of the volume control. The other side is negative. Usually I add a switch, but since there's nothing on shortwave, so when you go to shortwave, it's pretty much silent. I'm just going to tell the future owner, switch it to shortwave when you want to listen to your audio input. Thus, we don't need to add a switch, which is good. The radio doesn't have a back, so I don't want someone touching a switch on a metal chassis. They might get a little bit of a tingle, which would be uncomfortable. And so with that, I'm going to do one more thing to the set, which is clean this dial. There's also, it looks like maybe a little rip in the speaker here. I'm just going to fill it in with a little clear silicone glue. And we'll put it back in the case. Call this one done. Getting a new roof. There's why there's a dumpster out in my front yard. Alright, so it is all done, back together again. I have to say that the color is kind of grown on me. I was kind of like, ugh, when I first got it, but now that it's all cleaned up and shiny and everything, kind of classy looking. I know they made these in a bunch of different colors. I think there was yellow, some sort of turquoise, maroon, whatever this color is, white. I think they made a black, and they even made a satin black with an orange lettering. Anyway, I've got my Bluetooth thingy running through here.
once raised the stars and stripes on Iwo Jima Isle. Through the blood and tears they won through. Bless the heart.
Our good old Bob Wills and his Texas Playboys. Anyhow, I'm going to let it sit here and run for a few hours. I want to make sure if anything is going to break down via thermal dynamics inside the chassis, inside the case, that it's going to happen under my watch instead of it going out somewhere and suddenly breaking down in a few hours. All right, well, hope you guys enjoyed watching this episode, and as always, if you want to leave some comments down in the comments section, I'll try to get to them. If you like this channel, make sure and press that like button. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your pets goldfish, tell them all about this channel. I appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching. And until next time, a piece of obsolete electronic equipment comes across my workbench. See you guys next time. Adios.